Well, good morning, Bishop Branch Baptist Church. Hope you are doing great. And I wanted to fill you in on our recampusing plan that we are beginning this week. It is going to be in 4 phases. And of course, with all of this, we've all got to be flexible because we want to come back to campus. We want to be here together, but we want to do it safely. And we want to be good community members as well and be a good example in our community of how we're going to do this well. And with that, why do we want to come back together? Because Sunday is so special to believers. It is a day we gather together. It is a day we worship the one who has redefined everything about us. And he deserves that. And even Scripture tells us not to neglect the gathering of the saints so that we can spur each other on to love and good works. So there is a precedent and a call from our Lord to meet together. But he also wants us to be smart. He wants us to work from facts and faith, not fear. And so we're going to do this in a way that we think will make sense, will not get us ahead of government regulations or restrictions or the CDC recommendations. We want to do things well. And so I want to lay out these 4 phases of how we recampus here at Bishop Branch. All right, so phase 1 begins right now. We will begin by, first off, we're doing our drive-in worship services. Okay, so drive-in worship services are happening here on campus, and the only time it won't is if it just rains us out, and we will switch over to an online service at that point. So phase 1, we're already starting in. One thing that is going to be a little different this week is that there will be some seating in our field outside where you can actually bring a lawn chair or a blanket or something, and you put it on the ground and you can worship outside of your vehicle. There will be marked off areas on the field for your household. And so whoever's in your box, you'll need to stay in your box during this time. And so that'll be up front, closer to the stage. Behind that will be a space for people who would rather remain in their vehicles. Okay, so we want to give you that option, but we don't want a bunch of commingling, intermingling on the field. We want to let that space still remain, but getting you out of your car a little bit, getting you used to that, and maintaining that space. So phase 1 includes that drive-in service with a little modification to what we've been doing. Another unique aspect of phase 1 that begins this week is that we are going to let our small groups come back to campus. Our Bible study fellowship groups will come back. The Sunday schools and home groups, any of those can come back to campus. They can begin meeting throughout the week at an assigned time and an assigned space. And in just a moment, I'll show you an example of what that space looks like. But during that time, in fact, we will have youth and their small groups coming back together on Wednesday nights, and we'll space them out as well. The good thing about that is on Wednesday nights we will still have online service for the adults, and so there'll be we've scheduled it in a way that you will have time to drop your youth off at 6 p.m., get back in time to watch online at 6:30. That'll be over around 7-ish and 7 to 7:10, and get you back here by 7:30 to pick up your youth. So we're trying to coordinate all these things in phase 1. Another aspect about your small groups meeting on campus. We will disinfect between uses of any space. We have a sprayer set aside for that. And just know this, during phase 1, we will not have any childcare provided. We can't do that right yet. And so understand that as you come. If for some reason you can't be a part of your small group, some of your small group leaders can provide a technological connection. So either through Zoom or phone calls or FaceTime, some of those different platforms that will help you stay connected. We want to focus on our discipleship and getting our small groups back together so that we can be encouraged and held accountable and do the things God called us to do. So that's a brief overview of phase 1. All right, well, I want to introduce you to what a small group space will look like in our church. And this is our fellowship building, of course, and we have this here on purpose. This is going to get us ready for phase 2. But in phase 1, as our small groups are coming back together, our Sunday school classes, our Bible study fellowships come back together, we want to provide a space that socially distances you. You can see in here, we have this set up where 25 people can come together, still hear and experience the small group place while still maintaining some distance. We have space between the rows and also between the chairs. So we want to be responsible, take some precautions, but at the same time, we were ready to start moving forward to our recampusing plan. This is one of the ways. Now, we have some other rooms that we'll be utilizing. And so the Sunday schools are signing up for the times of the week. And so this is a space where several classes will take turns in this space through the week. We have 2 other large rooms in our education building that will also be utilized by a couple of small groups. And then we also have space in the sanctuary that one of our Sunday school classes will utilize so they can spread out in distance. So we have these rooms set up for you so that you can start coming back to campus, discipling, and getting that accountability and encouragement back in motion in person. One thing, of course, because it's the fellowship building, one of the thoughts is going to be, hey, why don't we turn this into a meal while we come to our small group? I want to encourage you, run your small group like you would a Sunday morning. And Sunday mornings, your small group gets together, you might have a snack or two, maybe some coffee, and that's fine. But let's not turn this into a potluck, okay? We want to be focused on reaching, teaching, and ministering to people. That's the purpose of our Bible study fellowship groups. That is why we exist, and that's what we're here to do. So with this space, I hope it helps you and continues the discipleship process. Now let's look at some other things that are coming up in phase 2. So phase 2. What's unique about phase 2 is we'll be back on campus worshiping in the buildings. Now, I say buildings plural because we're going to be in the sanctuary and the fellowship building. We will utilize the space to spread everybody out at a safe distance. And so we're going to have that in place for you. We'll also still have online. We'll be broadcasting live. So those who aren't quite ready to be back in the buildings, you don't have to be. And that means that is going to be the unique step of phase 2, is being back on campus together and waving distance of each other. But then during phase 2, we will continue our small groups the way we were in phase 1, everybody meeting on a rotational basis in the assigned space and times. And then we will also incorporate into our worship time a form of discipleship for our children, and maybe a children's worship kind of model. We're developing all of that as we speak to make sure it's going to work. We want to keep safety a priority, but we also want to have the space to do it well. So stay tuned for that, and you'll hear more details about what it's going to look like for children during phase 2 as well. But on Wednesday nights, we will continue with the meeting of. There'll be an online discipleship component. There will also be the youth meeting on Wednesday nights like before. And so there's the same things we were doing in phase 1. We'll continue into phase 2, but we'll build on that with an on-campus, in the buildings worship service. So let me take a moment and share with you what that on-campus worship service is going to look like, so you'll be prepared to come and be ready to worship in a very different way than maybe you were used to. So when we go into phase 2 of our recampusing plan, we want to worship together in the same space, but we want to do it safely. And so I want to show you how it's going to look when you come onto campus during phase 2, when we begin to worship on campus. We do hope that'll happen in June, and we're just going to stay fluid on that. But as people come in, the first family that comes, our ushers will greet you here. We will walk you down the center aisle here. And then we will put you on that front pew all the way on the aisle side. And that's the first family that comes in. And when I say family now, I'm talking about your household, okay? Because we got some pretty large families in this church. And so if you invite all your cousins and brothers and sisters and nephews and nieces and stuff, we would have not enough room up there. So bring your household. And we will set you, if you're the first one and you're used to being an early but still a back row Baptist, you're not going to like being early because you're not going to be a back row Baptist anymore. We'll take you up to that front row, put you on this aisle side, and that's your family will sit on that pew and no one else with you. That way we can maintain some space. The second family that comes in will be brought in, and immediately we'll turn you down this side, take you up the side aisle, and sit you on the far end of that front pew up there. And so the front pew, everybody's over here to this side, okay? Then when the third family comes in, all right, we're going to just do the same process, but now on the second row, everybody's going to be to this side. So on this side, on the second pew, that family will be on this end, on the aisle side. And on this side, on the second pew, that family will be all the way to the outside of aisle side, okay? So you'll see where everybody's kind of shifting back and forth. And that way we maintain distance and no one's sneezing on the back of someone's head, okay?
Gọi đại đúng đấy, lên rồi lại up về phỉ, về rồi đó. Đặt con lên, ra. Hey!
And so that's how we will get you into the service. We'll walk you through it. We'll get you to a space. Plus, doing it this way, we fill in from the front to the back, and no one is crossing over each other trying to get to their seat. So I know some of you are more comfortable than others with this. So just if you are not ready to come to service during that recampusing phase of phase 2, that's okay. We will still offer everything online, so you can worship from home and watch online. But we do want to encourage, as we take these processes, take these steps, we'll do it as a process. We will not get ahead of our CDC recommendations or the government mandates. We will not try to jump ahead of them on this. We're not trying to be rebellious in any way. What we're trying to do is be faithful and work from faith and facts and not fear. That's the whole point of doing this. We want to work with faith and facts, not fear. And the other part of this, now if you think about it, we can't fit everybody in our sanctuary, which is a great problem to have, honestly. But on a normal Sunday morning, we can kind of almost pack this place out. So where do we put all these people if we're spacing out? We're going to go down to the fellowship building and I'll show you how we're going to do it. All right, so in phase 2, there's going to be some other changes coming up to our worship. We want to be back on campus, right? So we need to utilize this space along with the sanctuary space for worship. So this space is going to change. And it's going to be one of those things like bippity boppity boom, boom. Don't you love that, Savannah? All right. This is what a second worship space is going to look like in phase 2. If you look around, we've got some chairs broken up into household groups, some by couples, some by families of 4, families of 6, families of 5. We've tried to create some space in here that we can get over 50 people in this space with social distancing. And we wanted you to know that while the service is going on up in the sanctuary, this is the space for the families to come to at the same time. And what we're going to do, and they're not in here yet, but we'll have some screens up here that the service from the sanctuary will be piped down into this space. You'll be able to watch the service up there, but you'll have some facilitators down here, some folks to help you be a part of worship, not just sit there and watch TV. We want you to be a part of worship, sing, and there'll be some folks here leading that worship with you live. So it will not just be watching TV. And that's what I'm excited about, is that we're going to be able to experience the same worship service in both spots simultaneously. And of course, the third service will be online. So folks who are not ready to come back on campus can still watch from home. We will assign families a color. So we'll have red, blue, and green, and we will put families in those groupings. And if it's a red Sunday, when you pull up on campus, there will be a red flag out here in the parking lot to remind you it's a red Sunday. And if you've been assigned the color red, then you'll know, hey, I want to park closer to the fellowship building. I'm going to be in the fellowship building this Sunday. Now, the next Sunday will be a different color. It'll be color blue or green, whichever one we go in the order we go in. And when you pull up on that Sunday, there'll be a blue flag out in the parking lot to remind you. And if you're a blue family, it'll be your turn in here. And what that does is with red, blue, and green, on the Sunday that the red families are down here, blue and green are in the sanctuary. Well, the next Sunday, blue is down here and red and green are together. It'll be like Christmas, right? And then on the next Sunday, it's a green Sunday down here and blue and red will be up there. So that way, none of us miss each other. we always get through a rotational basis to see each other during this time. And again, we don't know how long this will last, but this is a way that we can be on campus, we can see each other at a safe distance, and no, we won't be doing any hugs and handshakes during those initial times, of course, but that's coming too, so you're welcome, you introverts. We are excited that we get to start recampusing this way. So this is what it's going to look like down here. And we will again make it as worshipful as possible. And this will also be a good space for those small groups to start utilizing as well, where we don't have to reset all the time. So if your small group meets in here during phase 1, and phase 2, your small group will still meet in here and be able to utilize the space. So that's phase 2, all right? Now phase 3 and 4 are they're going to meld real quickly, okay? We set aside phase 3 from a leadership standpoint, just from the standpoint we want to be intentional about preparing our leaders, those children ministry leaders, youth leaders, because what phase 4 is we're back on campus, like with very limited restrictions, if any. And so we want to prepare. So from a leadership standpoint, we do have something we call phase 3, where we're preparing the choir, where we're preparing our leaders. This is when social distancing is melting away, and that we will be able to be fully back on campus. So we will have a little phase there before we fully kick into gear, where we want to give our leaders opportunity to be trained. Just know that's part of it. But phase 4, so don't get impatient with us, but phase 4 is when we come back to campus fully. And so we want to be prepared for that. Now, let me just give you a timeline, but again, I don't want you to be locked into that, because we have to be fluid and flexible as to how God wants us to do this, to be good community members, keep people safe, but be faithful. And so when we do this, we are hoping that by Father's Day, we'll be doing phase 2 and worshiping back in the buildings. Okay, so it's sometime in June. That could happen sooner or maybe later, but we are hoping that's kind of our target date. And then in July-ish, we start phase 3 to start preparing for phase 4. And that's that leadership component. And then phase 4, when we're fully back, we're hoping that'll coincide at least by the time the kids are going back to school. But with that, understand that we had planned Vacation Bible School, and we had planned the very week after that, Somersault. Both of those were going to happen in June. They will not happen now, at least not in the way that we had planned. There may be some other option we can have later in the summer. We're going to stay open to that, but the possibility is that maybe in the fall we actually have something out of the box and different and unique. And isn't it awesome that God can do those things? And that's the lesson we're learning from all this, is God has gotten us out of our walls of our church. He's gotten us out of the box, so to speak. He has gotten us to do things differently than we've ever done before. And that is the God we serve. That is the God that we worship, because He can take anything and work it together for good for those who love Him and are called according to His purpose. Are you living according to that purpose? This 4-phase process, I hope, will help clarify for you what we're doing. If you have any questions, contact us, reach out to us on our website, Facebook page, call the office, whatever you need to do. But we'll be glad to help you understand if you have any questions. If you know of someone who is not online, that's a member of our church, please reach out to them and share with them what's going on. That's part of the unique thing, is we all work together as a team to do this. So reach out to some of those folks and let them know what's happening. And we will see you soon. I can't wait for us to be back on campus. And let me plant this one idea. Just came to my memory real quick. When we do come back in phase 4, you better believe we're going to have a celebration. And I want us to have a great fellowship. We call them life events. But I want it to be a unique time. And we'll set this on the schedule when we can. I want us to have a great time of fellowship. And I want us to come, and it's going to be an Ebenezer night. It's going to be a night where we come together and we share stories of what we saw God do in this time. And I know some of y'all have seen some. I've heard already from you. So come ready to share and celebrate what God has done. I'm looking forward to it, and we will see you soon.